Welcome in. We're the Real Selection Committee. My name's Mike. This is Greg. And we're coming back to you talking about Ohio State. Last few weeks we've been going over kind of their big games. We went over Texas and we went over Penn State. This week we're going to dive kind of in about the Big Ten overall as far as, you know, who do we think's going to be like a dark horse team or something to that effect, you know, who to watch out for. So let's dive into this Big Ten here as far as, you know, let's talk about some of those other teams, you know, because obviously Ohio State does not play Oregon or Indiana. And so how do you see this Big Ten overall shaping out?
Well, you know, honestly, I think it comes down to Ohio State and Penn State in the championship game, with Illinois and Oregon and Michigan factoring in favorably in there. Any one of those three could step in. Indiana's going to need some things to go their way. Their schedule, they probably have the toughest schedule because they have 3 games where they're going to not be the favorite. They're going to be the underdog. But understand this, don't think Indiana's fallen off. They're going to be a solid team. They got a transfer quarterback that isn't bad in to replace the guy they had last year. They have 3 guys on their defense that were All-American last year in some form, whether it was all the publications or at least 1 or 2. And that coach in Indiana is something to be seen.
Yeah.
So those 6 teams, I think it goes Ohio State, Penn State, Illinois, Oregon, Michigan, Indiana, and Nebraska's going to be somewhere in there. Nebraska might jump some people. Because, you know, Nebraska, like I said last year, when you look at their schedule, the only game they played bad in was that Indiana game. And that followed them all year long. They were a breath away from beating Ohio State.
Right.
They smashed Colorado last year. Played Penn State fairly well. The only game they looked terrible in was Indiana, and for some reason, that's the only game people think about. You know,
Yeah.
They were 6-6, but they were very competitive other than that one.
Yeah, they got that Dylan Raiola as their quarterback, who's a very talented quarterback.
Very much.
And they are a dark horse. Nebraska, I think, is going to be a team.
8-4.
A contender.
Yeah.
A contender, I would label them as.
Yes.
You know, the things could break right on their schedule, and they could get in.
Yeah.
As
I think
far
they're-
as the playoffs.
I think
I
they're
don't
the
think
top second-tier team.
Yeah, I don't think they're the big dogs yet, but
No.
they're a contender.
Yep.
As far as a playoff contender, if things
They're-
shape out right.
They're a contender in the Big Ten in some form, whether it be actually somehow getting involved, or at the very least, they're a big-time spoiler.
Yeah,
Big time.
And this year, Indiana, everybody's thinking is going to be Illinois. The Fighting Illini is going to have that solid record. I think their odds are right now is a 10-2 record.
Yeah.
Another 10-win season
Yeah.
for Illinois. They got a very good team, and we
Yes,
talked
they do.
about how veteran they are. They got a lot of returners.
Yeah.
So I would think 1 being Ohio State.
Yeah.
2 being Penn State, 3 being Oregon is the way I have the Big
Nationally,
Ten
yes.
shaping up. And then Illinois is right there. Some of them have that flip-flopped around. Illinois is ahead of Oregon just because of schedule
Yeah.
as far as that goes. And then we're looking at, you know, who's going to be the next guy in there. Are we looking at Michigan in there?
Well, Michigan, as I said, they got a really easy schedule. Yeah, when I look, and this isn't to down them because they don't make the schedule. It's not Michigan's fault.
Right.
But when you look at Michigan's schedule, they got 5 gimme games. What that means are the teams that really have no hope of beating.
Yeah.
Then they got 5 games where they're going to be solid favorites. You know, they do play USC and Washington and Michigan State, which all of those teams are going to be challenges, but they should beat those teams. Should.
Yeah.
They got 1 game where they're even, the Oklahoma game. And everybody thinks Oklahoma's going to be better, but we'll see. That Oklahoma-Michigan game is a pretty big game.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be a really good one.
That's a good one, yeah.
And then they got the 1 game against Ohio State where you figure they're the underdog, but not that big an underdog.
Well, I don't know. I mean, just like you said, that season,
their schedule, and it's a home game for Michigan.
Sure.
They probably might be favored depending on how the schedules shape out.
I don't think
early.
they'll be favored. I don't think they'll be favored simply because the schedule is. People are going to get down to they're weak. The schedule's weak, and it looks weak, but you still got to win these games.
Yeah,
And you know
yeah,
these are FBS teams.
Mhm.
These aren't. You know, they're not playing Mount Union.
Right.
You know, they're playing
Right.
several FBS teams. The problem for Michigan, in my eyes, will their players look at that schedule and say, "Oh man, the only team we really got to get by is Ohio State."
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't focus on the task at hand, they could drop 3 or 4 of these games getting into the Ohio State
Right.
game.
Right.
I don't think that happens. I think Michigan, I think they roll into Ohio State with 1 loss or no losses. But I just don't think, unless they beat Ohio State, I just don't think they're going to get anywhere other than
Yeah.
what we just said.
So as far as our rankings would go, would you put Indiana ahead of Michigan
No.
or Michigan ahead of Indiana?
Michigan ahead of Indiana.
Okay. I would as well, based on schedule, and Indiana does have a tougher schedule, so I would put Michigan ahead of Indiana.
Yes.
All right, so let's go. Who do you have next? Would you have Iowa or Minnesota?
Nebraska.
Oh, you'd have Nebraska
I
up
have
there?
Nebraska.
Okay,
Then probably Iowa.
okay.
And then
Minnesota
you got
or
to toss up
USC?
with. I probably would put USC simply because we're hoping USC does what they're supposed to do.
Finally come,
Yeah.
because they are
And-
a blue blood tradition
But-
here, a good team with Lincoln
Yeah,
Riley,
they should.
who is a
but
very good head coach,
I-
good quarterback.
I look at USC, Washington, Iowa, Rutgers, and Minnesota as all kind of. You're splitting hairs with those teams.
Mhm.
I would give USC the nod over them, and probably Washington. Iowa to me just is so boring. I mean, but their defense seems to play. When you go to Iowa, something happens in Iowa to a lot of teams. So we can never count Iowa out.
Mhm.
Rutgers, like I said, Rutgers has experience.
Yeah.
But you know, you got your 6 that we said. I think the Nebraska's the
7.
simple 7.
Yeah.
You probably have to put USC 8.
Yeah. Mhm.
Iowa 9, Washington, Rutgers, Minnesota.
Yeah. Yep. And then the team that's kind of fallen off, kind of out of the map, Michigan State.
They're going to be better.
They're going to be better.
They're gonna
and
be
you got
better,
in
but-
Michigan. Do you have Michigan better than Wisconsin, or
I think
how
I'm
do you
over
think-
Michigan State over Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin for some reason to me just doesn't. I mean, I still have them in there as you better play ball to beat them, but I think Wisconsin's just fallen off of
Yeah.
the Wisconsin role.
Mm.
I just think they have.
And then you have, I would put Maryland as there, and then
I put UCLA over Maryland. I think
oh yeah, yeah. we
Maryland
forgot
would be under UCLA,
Yes.
and probably Northwestern and Purdue would round it out.
Yes, that's kind of how the Big Ten I think is shaping out
Yeah.
as well.
But hey, as we found out last year, where was Indiana ranked going into the
yeah,
season? Probably
they
next
were
to
a
the last.
5-win,
Yeah.
5-win projected
So-
team right there, and they turned out winning 11 games.
And here's the thing: everybody thinks it's so easy to just go in and look up stuff and say, "Well, this team." I've looked up all 136 of them,
Mhm.
and it's not easy to because,
Can't
like I
count.
say, everything I've done was pre-spring game.
Mhm.
There's a lot of those guys that aren't even still on the team that they were on when I looked it up.
Mhm.
So it's not easy to decide what these teams are going to be.
Yeah.
A lot of times you just got to let the season start and play out.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say what we just said is what the Big Ten looks like,
Shaping out to be
shaping
yes.
up to be.
Mhm.
Like I say, the dark horses to me is Nebraska is the
Mhm.
major dark horse.
Mhm.
USC because I just want them to do something.
Mhm.
You know, they're a blue blood college team. Let's go USC. Get up in there and do something this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Do what you were supposed to do when you came here.
Yeah, I'm right on with you with Nebraska as being a team to watch out for.
Yeah.
Definitely a team to watch out for. And, you know, those Pac-12 teams that come in, they're going to be a lot better this
Yeah.
year. USC, UCLA, Washington's going to be even better. You know, Oregon obviously is a top tier team.
Yeah,
in there.
Oregon's right
But
there.
the other 3, I think, are going to step up this year and kind of get in the middle of the mix of these teams here.
The interesting thing is, what does Nico do for UCLA?
Yeah, I mean,
because he's we had a little fun with him before, but make no mistake, we know that man is talented.
Yeah, he's clearly
He's a talented player,
Mhm.
and that might be what UCLA needs to jump up in there and be 8, 9, 10, and the Big Ten has 18 teams in it now,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
10th ain't so bad,
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of our preview and look ahead as far as the Big Ten, rankings. So it's going to be a fun season in the Big Ten.
Oh, absolutely.
Stick around because next week we might dive into the Big Ten versus the SEC. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there want to hear what we have to say about that. And this SEC is untouchable as everyone thinks, but we got otherwise there.
That's Texas.
Yeah,
that's Texas A&M. How many national champions the SEC had in the last 2 years? Right. We don't deny the SEC overall strongest top to bottom. We don't deny that. But stop acting like your Alabama and Ole Miss and Georgia are untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
They got proven last year they're not. All you SEC fans, the year Georgia beat Florida State, when Florida State was down to their third string quarterback and one starter playing in the bowl game. Oh, look how good we are. FSU didn't deserve to play. Look how good. But you cry because you lost a quarterback. Zip it.
Yeah.
Quit eating potato chips. Quit chewing on gum, and actually have a brain. You're not your top isn't what it used to be. Texas came in there. You can say weak schedule all you want. This is the SEC. No weak games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me it was an easy schedule.
Right.
Your big teams avoided them last year.
Right. Yeah.
They struggled with Georgia.
Yeah.
What Georgia do in the playoffs? Out. Bye.
Yeah.
What Tennessee do? They got mopped.
Yes.
So Texas went in there. They beat a good Arizona State team. Oh, wait a minute. They weren't in the SEC. They couldn't be good. No.
Right.
No. They beat a good Arizona State team.
Right.
They played their butt off against Ohio State. Were not for a bad
Couple play calls.
and then a play that went the wrong way for them. Who knows what would have happened? They were 2 yards away from tying Ohio State.
Mm.
And they went from that to down 14 and over. They carried your banner, like it or not.
Yeah.
They did. But that being said,
Yeah.
we know we're not saying the SEC is terrible. It's probably the strongest conference.
We're not the only two that thinks Texas is good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They're ranked number 1 preseason. Where's the rest of your SEC at? Not number 1.
Yeah.
Guess who's number 2 and 3? Oh, Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Shut it up.
Well, that's gonna do it. Hey, keep up the like,
Come
and
back.
comments,
Yeah.
and hey, like and subscribe. We definitely like for you to help us out so we can keep coming with this fun that we're
Drop
having
some
here.
knowledge. We did have a guy drop some knowledge on the Texas
Hey, we appreciate
broadcast.
it.
And I like
we
that.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Much like we know Ohio State, a gentleman commented that knows Texas. We appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
Come
Keep it
back.
up. Yeah. Hey, if you enjoy it, talk to us about it because I know we would love to engage on that. So,
Yes.
hey, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.